is a very interesting fireside chat on collaboration across value chains, building ecosystems for circular growth. May I request all delegates to please take your seats. You all can continue your networking in the space outside. Thank you. So as I said, our fireside chat is on collaboration across value chains, building ecosystems for circular growth. And for this conversation, may I invite on the dais Professor Vikram Vishal, Professor and Convener, National Center of Excellence in CCUS, IIT Bombay, and co-founder and CEO, UrjanovaC. A huge round of applause for him. He's got many awards from the government and all. Congratulations, Professor. And to join him on the dais is Mr. Sumit Issar, MD and CEO, Mahindra Accelo Limited and Mahindra Steel Service Center Limited. He is also Director for CERO, which is Mahindra MSTC Recycling Private Limited. I think they are India's only authorized, government-authorized automotive recycler. Many now. Yeah, right, okay. I mean, they started. Board member, Mahindra Auto Steel Private Limited, Mahindra Middle East, and PT Mahindra Auto Steel Indonesia. Over to you, Professor Vishal.
Thank you. And as you know, I am a professor and a teacher in the classroom. First ensures attendance is right. So I'll ask the organizers to kindly, or else you'll get the voice getting a little louder with a more shrill pitch, which you wouldn't want in early in the morning. So can we have the audience take the seats, please? Yeah, on this side. And also the organizers can close the door if you don't mind, so that at least, we don't have that. But yeah, for the rest in the room, thank you for staying back, and I'm sure people will join, shortly in this room further. It's truly a privilege to be here, in this fireside chat, interacting with Mr. Sumit Issar. He's a well-known name in the industry, and as was introduced, some of the leading initiatives for not just for his industry or the sector, but this is an important vertical on recycling that Sumit, you are taking forward. So the structure of this program would be, we'll try to keep it short as we understand that we are in a paucity of time. So we'll have some interactions among ourselves. I'll be putting some questions across to Sumit and trying to understand in this sector what's happening. And then I would like to have an interaction with the industries also. For a moment, I'll do a pin drop silence. Absolute silence. So maybe, those gentlemen on the side, if there is an organizer around, please, I don't like students moving in the class when I'm teaching, right? So please take your seats. I'm sure you'll get some good rest sitting on these chairs. And then we can continue. All right. So, okay, the first question to the audience. Have you heard the term sustainable development? Yes, all of you? Anybody who has not can raise his or her hand? Them or their hands? No? Okay. When was this term sustainable development coined or came into discussion and practice? Any idea? Is the question clear to you all? When was the term sustainable development brought into discussions and slowly in practice? Make a guess, no problem. You're not going to lose your grades, please. Yes, that's good reference point. Yeah, before that also. Any year guess, like 2005, 1995, 2010, you said? No, go ahead. You may be right. You are right. The term came into discussion in 1975, 78. In early 80s, it was a topic of discussion in the, so to say, developed economies in today's time, that we need to develop sustainability. At that point in time, the energy consumption from fossil fuels, currently you know that we are all blaming coal and fossil fuels. The percentage share of fossil fuel in the energy mix was 80%. Giving that reference and the term sustainable development, just make a guess, what is the percentage share of fossil fuel in the energy mix today? Because it was 80%, 82% when the term sustainable development was brought into discussions. Now we know that we have to go ahead. So 4.5 decades have, or so to say 5 decades have passed since we got into sustainable development. What percentage did we come down from 82% to currently? Any guess, any number? 55% energy coming from fossil fuels globally. Any other number, higher or lower, it's okay. बढ़ा सकते हैं, घटा सकते हैं. 70%. Anyone else? Make a guess. 100%. It's still 80%. That means 5 decades of the world talking about sustainable development. We were, I was born in mid-80s, so those who were not born at that point in time, them having traversed all the journey, and what have we given back? Additional 80%. Not just that, the quantum of fossil fuels which is burned today is way above what was like 5 decades ago, right? So while we are talking about sustainable development a lot, and maybe many more panel discussions like this and fireside chats, the ground action is difficult to understand. In fact, I represent the government of India at the IPCC. It's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which got Nobel in 2007. Talking about climate change, sometimes I feel we just talk about climate change. Last week, I was in Peru, where the 63rd session was in action. And that's when we realized that the world may possibly not be able to avoid 2.8 degrees centigrade rise since the pre-industrial times. Because there are different scenarios. Anyway, coming to the point here is that while we are discussing about this, let's hear it from some of the leaders in the industry who have brought, who have walked their talk and brought it into action. So from that point, recycling is a term that I heard fantastic in remarks, in the opening remarks. You are leading some of the fantastic recycling initiatives, right? So that's... See, when I stop, it's like, there's no background noise going on, right? All right. So something called as the end of the life for the vehicles, right? Some of the vehicles, so India has a lot of vehicles which are approaching the end of life. I think around, the number is around 30 million, if I'm not wrong, right now. Just imagine, 30 million vehicles are already in the premise for getting end of life. And we expect that in next 5 years, this number would change to 71 million. It's massive amount of waste that will be generated from this industry. Mahindra being the leader in this space, and particularly, you spearheading that initiative in Mahindra. Sumit, from you, we'd like to, the audience and I myself would like to understand what initiated or what motivated you to get into a business which is not really lucrative and everybody's avoiding.
Been shaped by
and you entered into this space. What was the motivation behind this? Please.
Good question, Vikram. And I think let me just start a little bit when we actually first time. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. So let me start a little bit, way back in 2017 when we actually started looking into vehicle recycling and we brought that to India. One of the reasons why we thought of getting was we saw a lot of vehicles in India, the steel which was getting used, and then it's not getting recycled properly. That there was a total waste. And India imports roughly, if you look at today, 10 million tons of scrap, which is, if you look at $6 billion of imports, roughly. Our first business for the Mahindra group, and I'm sharing it here, was steel. So it was deeply rooted in somewhere in our core business ethos. When we started in 1945 as a group, that was the first business. And of course, from there, then we went into automotive, tractors, and basically now into 7 verticals and all. So there was a discussion which happened, and then we said we were importing scrap and supplying to one of our steel plants, which was there in Kapoli. And then in that room, suddenly we figured out so much of scrap is getting imported into the country. Why don't we start using scrap which is available within the country, recycle, which is of very high quality, and actually give back to the country and the nation, and then of course make it very sustainable. So that's where the whole idea of recycling for automotive came in, because we were there in automotive business. We said that's the first one which we should target. And that's where I think the CERO, we actually work in this brand name of CERO, and I don't know how much of you know about it. We said we will have a company which is formed, which will look into the recycling for steel in the first phase, and then get into recycling of other materials, especially e-waste, plastics, wire, copper harnessing and all. So we are looking at getting into all these areas. And then the second question which came in our mind was, who is going to be helping us in formation and getting this scrap? And so this company was actually formed with Government of India, with Steel Ministry. So it's something very unique. It's a private public partnership. Very few companies have survived. But the whole idea was when you went and made that pitch to the Steel Ministry at that time, and even to higher ups, we said, we have to do this for the nation. This country needs it. There's, as he said, 30 million vehicles are today more than 15 years old. If you take this number 5 years forward, it will go to 70 millions. And that includes two-wheelers, three-wheelers, everything put together. If you go further, it's going to go up to 100 million. And these are either left out in roads or they are just sold out to unorganized players who really don't recycle. And so much of wastage is happening across in the industry. And so as a group, our philosophy was, we have committed ourselves to sustainability. We have taken targets. Why not bet on this, create a value? Because believing, one thing which we believed, if you don't have sustainability in your business, you will not survive for a long. You actually have a strong business proposition, provided you are able to understand how does it works. And companies which don't think sustainability as a core focus for them, we see next 5-10 years from now, they will actually, customers won't like that. Customers' needs are changing. They are looking at sustainable products. They are looking at companies who are going to be giving back. And that's where we came back to the drawing board, started this company, CERO. And I think that is where we are today.
Fantastic. I also understand that the finances will be involved, and is there a premium pricing to the products that is coming out of this recycling, and how do you handle that?
Yeah. So what we do is right now, see, anything which you start in India is not easy because it was very difficult. There was no sector, there was no policy, and it was like a startup company. And in fact, frankly speaking, the mindset what we did was, we picked up some people from the startups, companies who are into this recycling business. We said, we will onboard you. We kept this company slightly aside, not in the main structure itself, gave them a lot of freedom, and we told them to do and start this business. The challenges were, of course, the feedstocks, because getting vehicles is not an easy job in India, because many of the families, even today, want to keep their old car parked in their house, two-wheelers, they don't want to sell. So there were a lot of challenges, and financially, I'm not saying that we have actually done well. It's not that, it's about now that we're going to be turning around. But there have been challenges, getting the policy in places, getting state government basically agree to these policies. So large part of this has been the non-market strategy. It's not that here the customers were basically for us, the state government. The customers were basically Government of India, where we had to go and tell them why this policy is required. And each state, by one, we had to go show what the potential in that state is, how can they actually earn out of that, and what does it bring back to the country, which is the larger question everybody had. And today, I think, when we sit here, we're very happy that in most of the states, this policy is now existing. The customers today are getting a lot of advantage, and I don't know in this room how many know that if you have an old vehicle, and if you recycle through any of the authorized service centers, or VSFs, you actually end up getting large money. So just let me ask you this question. How many of you are aware of this policy, first of all, that if you recycle 15-year-old vehicles, what kind of a money can you get? Can you just... 25% of road tax, what else? Okay. So that's 30,000. Anybody else? Any other takers? No. So today, you wanted to say something? Yes, you are right. So today, as we talk, you end up getting about 1 lakh, roughly. And now don't take it because it depends on the car conditions and all. But up to 1 lakh you can get in terms of incentives from government, from OEMs, and from these RTOs and all. So you get a road tax waiver. You have registration tax which gets waived, or in some states it's actually reduced. You have OEM discounts which are coming for recycling because they are now a party to this. And then you also get some advantages from the local state governments and all. If you imagine this, especially for a small car, about 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs, and if you get a down payment of 20% of that, which is 1 lakh, you can actually upgrade yourself. You can go, give your car, get that money, pay for a new car, and actually pay just the EMIs. That's the kind of attractiveness the policies many of the states have. I'm not saying it's still very smooth, so don't take it on face value. But what I want to highlight is that today the value which we have been able to create through this process, the customers are the key beneficiaries. And so what is happening now is, and you asked about financials, our plants, when we set up, we have about 8-10 plants in the country, 10 plants all put together, and more we are opening. And we are present in 50 cities. Initially, we used to struggle getting feedstocks. Now, what's happening is, many of the plants, we're getting people wanting to come to us, because reliability is very key here. There are many others, RBSFs, but many people take your car and then they will give it outside in the market, sell it, make money, which is again very difficult because then your registration numbers and everything gets sold to anybody. But what is happening in our case is we have customers calling us wanting to sell, and we are saying we just want some extra time because we don't have capacity. So that's the way we are now turning. We are creating value for the customer. The government gets the money because they are able to sell a new car. So that's where the tax benefits comes to the government. OEMs actually sell more cars because through this route, some people who want to upgrade and don't have money immediately can upgrade themselves. So it's actually for all the stakeholders, which is what the discussion is. Everybody gets in the value chain a large advantage. That's the kind of benefit now it's getting passed.
Fantastic. I think a lot of information that you shared. Just a quick question. What was the brand of Mahindra, that ELV recycling that Sumit talked about? Perfect. I like it. Good audience.
Can you tell what's the meaning of CERO?
That you did not tell us. Anyway.
I didn't tell that. So, but I want to ask actually, because I can share a story on that.
If anyone knows that, yeah.
Okay, great. I'll use it somewhere. Actually, CERO is a Spanish word. We wanted to take Shunne, because we want to say zero pollution. So CERO is actually a Spanish word, and if you look at CERO in Spanish means zero. So we wanted to say that we want to have zero pollution on roads, and that's where the whole idea. But we couldn't get the trademark for Shunne and all because of other issues.
That's another issue, but Shunne comes from India, and we have Team Shunne at IIT Bombay. You can check out what we do for net zero initiatives. But great, thank you. I think you talked about the government policies. A quick question, what is the net zero year for India? 70. Perfect. I think the simplest question in today's time for this forum. The point is that, when we look at net zero for 2070, what are the pathways to achieve net zero? And which elements, in which proportions, bandwidth that we can actually do that. India has still not peaked its emissions. Unlike many other Western world, they have peaked their emissions, they are on the down trajectory. Their cumulative may be still higher than us, but then, they are on the downhill. India's peak emissions is not there. We are emitting how many billion tons annually? India? Who said that? You are absolutely on point. We are emitting 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide annually. It's billions of tons, whereas the world emits roughly 36 to 40 billion tons, just CO2 equivalent. If you take greenhouse gas equivalent, it's roughly 60 billion tons. Imagine the amount of CO2 going out there, leading to this scenarios of 1.5. We had already breached, we touched 1.5 this year. We'll breach 1.5 degrees change since pre-industrial time by 2028 or 29. So
Vikram, can I ask you some question?
Please.
It's like so that we keep it. You've been doing a lot of work in CCUs and all. Now, frankly speaking, I don't know how many of us are aware of CCU. So I just want you to throw some light on that.
Sure.
And especially in context of India, do we have a clear vision in which of the sectors, frankly, it's getting used now? And how do you see that in future, shaping up?
Fantastic. The Fireside Chat has become a fireback chat because I was asking a lot of questions and Sumit posed it back to me. I take clue this timer needs to change because we were anyway late, right? Anyway, sorry, I'll just finish it quickly for us. I think Professor Anirban, in his remarks, he talked about CO2, as a challenge and as an opportunity. Can we convert it into useful products and that becomes, useful for the world for tomorrow? As I mentioned, 3 billion tons and, India has only 2, 3, 4 small carbon capture and conversion. So basically, what's carbon capture? You're capturing the carbon dioxide that's going to come from the emissions of the industries. So that 3 gigaton can we capture and not let 1 gigaton out and 2 gigaton goes, 1 gigaton is taken out and not released to the atmosphere. But there's also direct air capture where we capture CO2 from the atmosphere. That means legacy emission that has happened in the last 2 centuries or so, which, so to say, the plants are already doing. For instance, we have this, trees which are already taking carbon dioxide. So you look at the next planets next to us, Mars and Venus, they both have 95% carbon dioxide. Earth also had very high concentration of carbon dioxide. It's largely because of photosynthesis and enhanced, or rather rock weathering, that the CO2 has been fixed into either a carbohydrate, starch, or a carbonate in the rock. But now we are squeezing this entire process of billions of years into a timeline of net zero 2070. How can we do that? There's no appetite for that. So therefore, these carbon capture plants are being set up around the world. So roughly there is 59 million tons is being captured as we speak around the world. And the commitments are for 450 million tons. Simply, I am saying the manufacturing opportunity is of $40 billion for this gap that is there. So for the industries who are there, you can think of how we actually have indigenous manufacturing for this. But coming to the point on capture, when we capture this amount of carbon dioxide, we have to put it somewhere. So we can convert into fuels like methanol, ethanol, and formic acid, which can be used. We know that we have been talking about ethanol and methanol quite a lot. Or we convert them to as carbonate salts like calcium carbonate, magnesium carbonate, iron carbonate, and put it as aggregates and construction material and just remove it from the systems. So globally, there's a lot of credits coming for such removals. But when we convert to these products, there's not enough demand, right? If everybody has access to all the gold in the world and we found ways to convert copper to gold, for instance, there's no demand for gold. So that, for the same reason, there's a limit to which we can make carbon, methanol, ethanol, and so on. So 95% of the captured CO2 has to go back where it came from. Where did it come from? Through the fossil fuels beneath the earth. So this is process is called as geological carbon sequestration, where it is being taken up and pumped underground. Lot of apprehensions I see in my, when I speak in India, that there are risks associated, definitely. But let me also tell you that 500 million tons of CO2 has already been put underground in the last 5 decades of operations around the world. And this has become a big business model for countries like Norway and Australia, Timor-Leste, and also Saudi, who are going to take CO2 from other countries and store in their geological formations. So more than a challenge, I see that as an opportunity. India, with its massive geological space, can store roughly up to 600 billion tons of carbon dioxide. So that's the opportunity, and fortunately the government of India, since you asked, I am a part of the policy making task force also, and we have come up with this policy framework for carbon dioxide capture and utilization storage. And for that policies, I shouldn't speak of the number, but definitely few tens of thousands of crores is being asked and possibly committed very soon for doing CCU for next 5-10 years mostly, and sequestration subsequently. And that's where I see India's commitment for net zero, because when we see any of the roadmaps for 2070, we cannot achieve net zero without actively removing carbon dioxide and storing underground. Very interesting. Thank you. So maybe I'll throw some questions back, and maybe in the interest of time, go back to the audience. You talked about the government policies, but when you look at the overall circularity, give 3 specific elements that have actually helped you as a company to build CERO in terms of the government policies, or are you still banking on the customers and on that side for advancement?
So I think I'll be pretty quick on this because I think we are. So one, I think the biggest advantages where we've got from government is making policy for recycling for automotive. None existed. It took time, but there was continuously dialogue which is happening. They were very open. And in fact, India today has one of the most progressive policies on automotive recycling today. So that I think, while it took time, but if you look at, it's actually, the whole policy is directed towards a customer. What is customers' expectations going to be? So it's not a forceful policy. It actually doesn't tell you that after 15 years you have to basically recycle your car, because that's where India will never work. Compared to many other countries, if you look at in China, it's a law. If your car is more than 10 years, you actually have to go for recycling. And this is how they do it. But India, it's an open-ended policy. They have, of course, the fitness certificates and all which are in place. But what they have done is to make it so attractive for customers that after 15 years or 12 years or something, if you actually have to go and sell your car outside, you won't get that much of money which you will get now through the distributors and all, through dealers and through getting it through RBSF. So one thing, that is what is very, very important. The second thing is the state governments then pitched in. and they started giving incentives, and some of you said road tax, registration tax. They started coming basically on discounts, or in many states it's free. Third is basically the government is trying to do a lot to bring the unorganized sector. That's very important, because there are so many, if you go in Delhi and all, you have Mayapuri, the markets are, with all unorganized cars. In Mumbai, if you go, it's in Kurla, you will see that a large stretch of unorganized vehicles. So what government is actually trying to do is, these unorganized sectors, how can we actually integrate that with companies like us? And so we are working on that, basically how we can work. And there are many of the platform companies, and I was talking to one of the members out here, who have come up, who are trying to get all those guys into it. We are able to then sell our products in those platforms, get the things recycled. And so a lot of industries are coming. What I think we want now, and what we'll like to look at is, India should be one of the largest recyclers in the world. And the reason I'm saying is simply because you have 140 billion people here. You're going to have cell phones, you're going to have e-waste, you're going to have cars like no one else. And in the next 10 years, if you plot, frankly, India would be the largest market, maybe next to China, in terms of the generation of scrap, e-waste, plastics. And that is where I think the whole focus of the country needs to be. How can we recycle 99% of the products which can actually help the end users, customers, bring the cost down? See, the whole idea is not about at a cost you have to do it. Actually, the economy gains over a period of time. Initially, the costs are going to be high. But over a period of time, when you start recycling, the cost keeps coming down, and there's an inflection point when you start seeing a very good return on that. And I think that's where we are looking at getting that support. We are working on that along with the government, and you'll see in days to come.
Fantastic. I think that was some really good insights from Sumit. And in the interest of time, maybe we can have two questions from the audience, targeted largely at him, but you can also ask me a question, no problem. Please go ahead. Do you need a mic, or do we have a mic? Yeah. You can give it some rest and use the mic, no problem.
The cycles and the scooters that we see lying across lot of societies. Cars, yes, you gave a very nice picture about what is going to happen and how Mahindra is working on that, but something on cycles and scooters, it's actually a huge problem for societies across India.
So I didn't mention about trucks, buses, even for industrial scrap, we collect that. The challenge one is, in most of the cases, what happens is, we take vehicles which have proper documentation. That's very important as a corporate and also as a being company along with the government. Many of the time in societies, these vehicles are there and there's no paper backing that. But if you are having vehicles which are fully backed with registration and clear documentation, we actually take those. India does have 60% of the vehicle as two-wheelers. If you look at the entire, 60% is two-wheelers in India. So we can't leave that segment. And in all our service centers or wherever we have plants, two-wheeler is a large bulk which also comes in. But the challenge in most of the cases, when you mentioned about societies, when you go and try to collect that, people don't really have documentation to back in. That, for us, is not simple, because if we get that without documentation, first of all, we can't, we have entire process which is transparent. We do a video recording of the vehicles getting dismantled and then, going to the end-of-life vehicles. And then the advantage which we need to give you is the certificate that this vehicle has been destroyed. That we can't give without a proper documentation. So we are already there. If any vehicles are there, please reach out to us and our teams, and we can collect that.
Yeah, I see a couple of hands. Maybe interest of time, last two, maybe we'll take in.
Okay, just one quick question. In the morning, in Anirban's presentation, we looked at refurbishment. Okay, my name is Anis. I'm from Siemens. I look after sustainability. So I'm talking about refurbishment from a policy and from a technology point of view. How do you look at, after that 15 years, is that possibility through some technology of extending at least 10 years? Is that thought possible already going?
Okay, so very good question. Let me answer this. Okay. In Europe, they do a lot of refurbishment. In fact, it's a $11 billion euro market. $11 billion. The reason is they don't discard. They want to refurbish that if it's usable and give it back, because they have a lot of buyers and takers, and sometimes they will actually export in a big way, especially for countries in Africa and other places and all. So there's a huge opportunity. India will see that. We are working on some projects at our end also. We have to pick and choose what all products we can do. We don't do on the safety products because, there we have to be very, very careful. But in other areas, we are collaborating. That's going to be the next phase for us. Refurbishment, recycling for the end customer, and then scaling it up, including rare earth materials, which we want to bring it back to the country.
Thank you. I think this was very insightful, and I can see the moderator of the day is already here. So Sumit will be around for some brief while more, so you can have direct interaction with him.
So a huge round of applause for our esteemed guests. And please stay back on stage as I invite our Director General, Mr. Sandeep Khosla, to present you with a memento for our appreciation. Can we have the round of applause? I think it was a very interesting session, very interactive. Yeah, can we have a group photograph? We'll ask Mr. Ghosh to join them. Yes.